So hello everybody, thank you so much for being here. My name is ROSA, and during my working days I usually help Fortune 500 companies to understand how they can transform, and they have to transform their own companies in the way that they work, the tool that they use, and how to upskill their own people, otherwise they're going to end up like Kodak or even worse. But I'm here today to represent the Virtual World Society. That is a nonprofit association that has been created a few years ago by Professor Tom Furness, that's, as you probably all know, is the godfather of VR, and a wonderful human being, 83 years old, that of course has to take the flame in order to try to make technology more fair and inclusive and accessible for everybody. And I'm honored of being part of the Virtual World Society. And today I'm here to talk to you about the importance of other nonprofit companies, other nonprofit organizations that are here with me today. We are in a very weird moment, okay? The metaverse is imploded, and all the car salesmen left the room, and they moved towards another place that starts with G and ends with the AI. The hype has finished, and in the room, only the real people that are actually doing the plumbing of everything that we are doing remain, the real hardcore workers that are actually doing some valuable job here. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce today our panelists. We got Ben ERWIN here from the Academy of Immersive Arts and Science.
Thank you.
We have Maria Rice from Reality Hack at MIT. We have Christine from XR Women. And we have Damon and HERNANDEZ from the XR Guild. Guys, thank you so much for being here. So, quick round, like 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Can you tell us who you are and what you do in your normal day job, and why you got involved in your nonprofit organization that you're helping with? For Maria, for you is different. I mean, you do this for a living, and okay. Okay. Please go on. You want to start?
All right.
Yeah.
Before I start, can everybody see us? All right. Hold on a second. Sonia, everybody can see us. You promised that we'd be invisible. What do you mean, man up? All right. So we'll do this visible. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Ben ERWIN. I'm a co-founder of the Academy of Immersive Arts and Sciences with Terry Schuessler, who's sitting in the back on the couch there, and Karen Alexander, who is one of the co-founders of XR Women, with Christine Hill HOBBI, Julie Smithson, and Sophia Mashasha, who have become like my sisters over the last couple of years, because we started the Poly's WebXR Awards, which are now called the Immersive Awards. And that is how things began for us. And got a whole story arc behind that and where we're going with it that I look forward to sharing.
I think that we're going to talk about it later, because we're going to deep dive a little bit more on that.
Yep.
Wonderful. Maria.
Yeah, so I'm the executive. Testing.
Oh, by the way, this is being recorded. So, you know.
You have to do that whole spiel again.
We're in Europe. So we have to announce this.
Okay.
The joke only works once.
Privacy. So. GDPR.
That's good. Yeah, I'm the executive director of Reality Hack at MIT. You know, this has been going on for around 10 years. I was the executive director probably in 2024. But before that, I've had a 15-year career in the music industry as a mastering engineer. But yeah, we have a creator community of around 6,000 strong. So our flagship event is at MIT, but we also, we actually have I should plug this, a party tomorrow night. We go all over, and we have a startup cohort and a executive conference, and we can talk about that later. But yeah, really happy to be here.
Wonderful. Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine HOBBI, and I'm representing XR Women, but in the job that I have to do to make my bread and butter is with ServiceAlliances, and I've been a trainer and instructional designer for over 25 years. and currently working on a project with Mayo where I'm creating the objectives and the learning voiceovers and things for their training for CT and cardio CT and MRI safety. So I have a lot of different projects that I do that kind of keep me jumping and hopping, but I'll talk to you more about XR Women. That's kind of my passion. So,
Damon.
Yeah, super. So my day job is pretty much around enterprise and how do we use essentially open standards. I've been in the immersive tech field for 26 years, starting next year, but mainly from how do we use the web as a distribution platform, and then how do we essentially solve real-world problems. What got me involved with the XR Guild, though, was not that I've ever built unethical applications, but the idea was it was never at the forefront. Embarrassingly, it was never at the forefront of a pillar of what we were developing, right? It was always like solve a problem, but how do we actually do that in the right way? And so the XR Guild is very much about that, is how do you take people that have been in the industry for a while with people that are at all stages coming in new or in between, and how do we really build a more ethical future with these technologies, right? Once you get beyond the hype and you really see the amount of data that's being collected, things like that. So for me, it was very much about how do we build a better future.
Okay, now let's deep dive a little bit. And Damon, maybe we can start with you because you have the mic and you talk last. So you work with practitioners from all around the world. Yeah. So you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly that is happening in workplaces and in companies all around the world. Can you tell us what are the major red flags that you're seeing from the deployments that you're working with all around?
Yeah, I think the one thing that's really popping in my head now is my device, your data. With the Meta glasses and others, there's no way that you can opt out anymore. It's one thing if I put an app on my phone and I'm giving away my privacy, but I think it's another when you have the capture and how do you opt in or opt out of something like that. So I think the ugly that I have seen is that a lot of the people who come into the industry are so excited by the technology that they're Frankensteining it. Right? They're not thinking of the long term because they're so excited, they're so passionate about the potential.
Like over-engineering you?
Well, creating a monster without realizing that you're creating a monster. I want to create life. Well, but you're creating a monster. And so that's what I think is the issue, is that one has to be in the industry long enough to where you're not impressed by anything anymore to really dive down into those deep things of what actually are the consequences of when you're able to collect data like never before.
Yeah.
And in places where, I mean, let's point to the elephant in the room. When you have the two biggest headset manufacturers, at least in the West, that are an advertising company that is all about capturing and collecting your data to learn how to better influence or manipulate you, and the other is representing a country where they're building profiles. It's very interesting times, and so I think that's just really the ugly. The good, of course, we hear about throughout this entire conference, so I won't speak on that, but
I've got something to say about the ugly.
Go for it.
So, as an instructional designer, what I try to do is think about when we're doing training, how are we trying to impact the change in behavior? What do we want? What's our objectives? And I found that in this new industry, and I'm guilty of it myself, like you said, the Frankenstein, I want to be Dr. Frankenstein, and I love this new technology, but is it really what's needed for this particular training and for the objectives that I'm trying to reach? And I find that a lot of times we see the bright, shiny, things that we want to kind of relate to others. Look how cool this technology is, but are we really, with regard to training, are we thinking about what we really need to accomplish? And that's what I've seen.
Yep, that actually kind of makes me think of, so brings us to our mission at Reality Hack, which is, to propel spatial technology toward a maximal impact in society. And basically, everyone is building at our events and speaking to, building something for purpose. So, we encourage everyone to align with the UN sustainability goals. we do have the big bad, biggest of the big at our conference, Meta, Qualcomm, Google, all of those. When you work with people on this level, I think our infection spreads as far as, everybody wants to, on an individual human level, everybody wants to be doing something that is meaningful. So that's something that, really took off and really resonates with a lot of our community and as well as with our corporate community, so that is good.
I have a new question for you, my friends.
Okay.
So,
I was all ready with the good, bad, and ugly.
okay, go for it. Go for it. No. Go, give me the good, bad, and the ugly, and then we go with a new question for you.
So the good this morning when we listened to Alexandra speak, all the things that were sort of laid out in the European agenda, I think that they get it. Now, I've been saying for months that I think Europe is really important in the grand scheme of XR because they approach immersive as an artistic medium. And I think that it's really important that we look at the creative juices that make experiences that are compelling and meaningful and bring us together, that are shared experiences. And so this is really positive when I hear those trends and this thought process.
Yeah.
Now, I think Damon highlighted the my data, my device, your data. That's a big issue, and so, I'll let that stand. And the ugly to me is that we don't have an ecosystem where a person can own a device and access any content. So like back in the 70s and 80s, you would buy an audio cassette. And
television.
You could put it in any audio player in the world and it would play the same music. And then we had VHS and beta wars, and later Blu-rays, and then streaming came along and disrupted all of that. And I think that immersive distribution doesn't even have a model right now. It is all very based on what platform you purchase, and that the content is being published for specific platforms instead of every platform. And if we really want access for everyone, we need a universal distribution for immersive.
And this segues perfectly on my next question. That was going to be, what are the steps that at the Academy you're doing in order to change the status quo and to change this kind of problem that we're facing right now in terms of fragmentation, but also access to development tools and everything else that can really rise the immersive media to, mass market point of entry?
Well, there's two pieces to that question. One is what we've been doing all along, and that sort of led to the founding of the Academy of Immersive Arts and Sciences, which are the projects that we do, which include Metatraversal, which is an advocacy platform for standards and interoperability. So standards and interoperability are at the core. We're not going to have immersive distribution without that. So that's number one. And we've also been doing Ready Player Golf, which is our charity initiative, and that's touching.
Can we spend like 2 minutes on
real people in the real world? Yeah, sure.
No, please.
Okay. Well, so Ready Player Golf was originally conceived by Richard Ward, who was at McKinsey at the time, and he recruited Sophia Mashasha and I, and that was how Sophia and I met and became friends. And that sort of led to the founding of the Polys. But fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, we had Ready Player Golf 6. So we had our 6th edition, and all these years, I guess since Ready Player Golf 2, Engage has given us a clubhouse that we meet up in. And for the last 3 Ready Player Golfs, I think we did the first 3 in Golf Plus, and we did the last 3 in Walkabout. And just as a quick aside, as long as I'm talking about golf, Helen and I got to go to this amazing fireside chat with Ian Hamilton of Upload VR and Lucas Martel, who's the creator of Walkabout, and it was just so amazing to see good people win. Like, they're like a real mom and pop operation that have built a super popular platform that's highly accessible. Like, their design thinking is next level, but they're the really good people that you root for. So Ready Player Golf has been benefiting the Children's Cancer Research Fund's Big Dreams Virtual Tour,
Which is wonderful.
where we bring VR to kids that are dying of cancer. And
It
these
deserves an applause.
experiences.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. And when Sophia and I met in 2020, I had also been working with Terry and Julie Smithson on XR. Wow, I'm trying. XR Collaboration, thank you, Terry. I don't know why I drew a blank on that. XR Collaboration brought Terry and Julie and I together, and I asked Julie, would you like to host this award show called the WebXR Awards I came up with? And Sophia, would you like to do the red carpet? And that set in motion, and we had our first event in 3 months, and now we're coming up on number 6 of that. So that's what we've been doing, but very briefly, and I'll dig into it, is I think that we need to disrupt the distribution model of immersive content so that every creator can publish to every platform without a lot of cost and friction, so that the path from creator to publisher to distributor to consumer removes all those friction points.
Nice. Maria, I have a question for you related to your hackathons. Hackathons are known to everybody for being a nice sleep deprivation exercise for a lot of developers, and a very good way for companies to get some cheap R&D from the workforce that they don't have to pay. How do you ensure that, first of all, there's some sort of recognition for the people that are taking place into your hackathons, eventually connecting with the companies that are creating and paying for those hackathons to happen, and generate real value and not just glorified POCs for the companies that are sponsoring the hackathons?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that the companies aren't there to see, to find out what next, what use cases could exist. There is definitely a lot of that. Fortunately, they don't own anything that's created at our events. We, adhere strictly to the MIT open source policy. But I think the big thing is just sort of the cross-functionality of every hackathon team. It's something that, we found after 10 years of doing this, you can't replicate. No company can replicate the magic that happens when we throw together, designers and, developers and even like product managers who've never met before. That's one of the core things, is you can't show up as a team, because there is sort of like a hackathon circuit.
Yeah.
We don't do that. Also, we don't really, we don't motivate anybody with prizes. They do get prizes, but they don't know what the prize is going to be, because it's really more about, sharing the work. And I guess, it's a lot of these things are just so unique to the space and to what's happening that, the hackers themselves, they benefit. They've been recruited by some of these large companies, and they've also gone on to start their own companies, which is why we also started a Reality Hack for Startups initiative. And now we have, it's kind of like bringing the mission into the, so I call it the hack to market pipeline. And so we have a cohort now of about 40 to 50 early and seed stage startups. And some of them, began by their experience at the hack, by wanting to build on something that they created, and working out how things work with IP and all that. It's a case by case. I hope you don't ask me about it, because we don't have all day. But
No, it's fine. Please go on. This is fascinating. Also, I have another question for you just after that, so please go on.
No, you can go on to the next question. Yeah.
Well, my next question is, in a world where we're seeing more and more prompt engineering becoming more prominent than the development itself, being able to talk to cursor and doing vibe coding. How is this disrupting the way of doing hackathons? Are people becoming more prompt engineers rather than hackers as it used to be before? Is AI disrupting this kind of process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's something that, we're in, with our internal organization Discord, we're actively sort of debating amongst ourselves. For example, like, did we want to bring in the vibe coding platform Lovable, or other similar companies? There's
Is it considered cheating?
Is it considered cheating? See, that's a good question. Some might say, well, some of us are like, well, this is a creator event for makers, but at the same time, you don't know, 10 years down the line, that could be what is creation, You don't replicate, you don't vibe out, creativity and ingenuity and problem solving. These are just, these are just tools, and the tools change. The tools are going to continue to change. You're still going to have to, have interpersonal relationships, and you're still going to have to solve real-world problems. I've been, had the pleasure of being a judge for a few vibe coding AI hacks, and it's really impressive, what people at a very young stage in their lives are able to put out. But then the next step is, okay, but do you understand what you created? Do you know? I know that you just spoke like an expert on some biological medical process, but can you go deeper? Can you back that up with peer-reviewed research? And so yeah, it's changing the landscape, but it's really, we have to.
It's changing the workbench, basically.
Yeah, but it's like you walk the dog doesn't walk you. Yeah.
You said we could make this a conversation, and
Yes,
I could cut in and ask.
please
So
interject.
the question that came to mind when you said you've been discussing it actively on Slack, has there been conversations around sort of having a separate track or a separate sort of class of hack where people are strictly using AI tools of their choice, integrating it however they want, knowing that this was an AI-produced product as opposed to something. So my background is as a coder, so I know how to code,
Right.
and I've become a consumer of AI tools that accelerate that development. And rapid development tools have been around forever, but what is the most current thinking on how you sort of level the playing field between people who are actually coding and know their stuff, and people who know AI tools also know their stuff and use it to make better products faster?
Yeah, I think we're leaning more towards more just flat integration, because as you said, these rapid prototyping tools have existed forever. People have been using GPT at the hack for their homework forever. And forever, in my mushroom memory is 3 years. Yeah, but it really, at the same time, the result is, and the quality of the result is what's going to speak for itself. And a lot of that has to do with, the judging process and the mentorship process, and us working together, and us working together to really have people, set the standard early on at the start of the event and say, we're going to be looking at your code. We're going to ask you why you made these certain choices, what you did. You're going to have to test it out. It's going to have to be X, Y, and Z, and let's see what you come up with. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Please.
Response for that. So Ori had mentioned being a spatial agent. I feel like I am a spatial agent. My main thing is instructional design. I know just enough coding to make me dangerous. And I'm very familiar with case studies. I know the business, case scenarios, what needs to be implemented into VR. So just an example of how prompting, I'm a really good prompt engineer now. And what I do, I told you I was working with Mayo Clinic. So I am designing training on cardio MRI, cardio CT. Do I look like I know anything about that? So what I do is I prompt engineer, and I get a basis of what, the objectives are going to be, what needs, based upon all the information out there on all the other training programs. And I start with building this, but then I refer to my subject matter experts for, the information. And then I also refer to the developers and the coders and say, this is what we need to accomplish. So I do use prompt engineering quite a bit. So, and I wanted to say something else, but it was kind of back at your interoperability. Could I just mention something about that?
Go, of course.
So with XR Women, and I want to say XR Women and allies, we've had several discussions, It's not just XR Women. We have some wonderful allies, many are in this room. And we don't want to be an exclusive organization. By the way, we just got our 501c3, so we just became, a nonprofit. And we're kind of trying to switch up how we're doing our thing. And we're trying to focus more on empowering our community. So we have a community of over 1,600 women. We're in over 60 countries. Traditionally, over the last 5 years, we just celebrated our 5th birthday. We have had a meeting every Wednesday, and we have a speaker every Wednesday from a different type of, VR, AR, AI. We go between worlds. We're in Arrival Space. Lisa Marie is back there. We're in Engage. We're in Verbella Go. So I feel like that interoperability, we have to deal with what we have available to us right now. We're striving for that. But with XR Women, it's really a place where you can go and you can safely, because it's very intimidating, especially for people that have really never been in this world or any of those other worlds. We're in multiple worlds. So it's a good place to be able to go and experience. And the Ready Player Golf, that's something we do every Thursday with groups. And we have kind of launched some of our women into other spaces, like Allison has the metaverse. Tell me the name of it again. Metaverse Chamber of Commerce. Helen has the Four Mothers Cafe, and all of that. Even though it didn't maybe start directly in XR Women, they've been empowered by the XR Women, and I want to just give a plug for Lucia. She has a Swedish Christmas celebration, 2nd year, coming up on December 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can go in Engage and see a procession of the Lucia with the women and the singing in Swedish, Spanish, and English. So interoperability, we're trying to, I feel like we're kind of a bridge for that. So
and if I could just chime in on the interoperability part, because XR Women are very central to this conversation on interoperability, where Julie and Sophia and Karen and Allison have been a big part of the evolution of meta-traversal. So we've done 6 portal crawls, and the 7th is on December 30th. We do it it'll be the 4th annual New Year's Eve with Evo portal crawl, and we go between worlds to demonstrate the friction. So you mentioned that you have all these platforms, but how easy is it, like Engage, you can actually open up a portal, and with WebXR you can go between, but most platforms are siloed, and you can't do that for, I could name a whole bunch of them. There are some platforms out there that get it. Certainly Arrival Space is built on WebXR, and their whole concept is portals. So it's really, Allison actually hacked through some of these, brought down some of these doors so that we could jump from, because she has a level of access to the multiverse platform that allows that portaling to another platform. And if you have the right meta ID, but again, when it comes to the platform that you're on, Meta has a deep link API, but there is no universal deep link API for all platforms. So if you have a different type of headset, if you're not on MetaQuest, you're not going to have the same experience, and that's what we're campaigning for at Meta-Traversal, is that universal interoperability.
So I want to go back to Christine because I mean, everything has been super, super nice, but I have a little bit of a provocative question for you.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll see if I
So
can answer it.
imagine that you are pitching a very cold-hearted investors about XR women, and you have to tell an investor or a CEO, and you have to tell this to this person, explaining the value of what you do. How do you do that?
The value of what we do is
Aside from being a tax relief method,
Yeah.
which is great.
we have global reach. I think that's one of the biggest things. You guys help me out, maybe, but global reach. And we have had experience in probably most any platform. If you go between our 1,600 community, probably most any platform or any experience that's out there. And we are, I don't know, is that good
Yeah,
enough?
it's good enough, but go for it.
Yeah, I think one thing I heard that was pretty amazing, because I deal with the building industry, and I'll be quite honest, the XR community is way more engaging with ladies than the building industry, and I like what this one woman said. How do you sell it? Don't say diversity inclusion, because let's be honest, if people care about that stuff, but they don't care enough, right? That's why we're seeing everybody renege on it now. But I think the way to come into it is it's and I love what she said, business scalability, right? Because that's really what it is. And so that's where I think that we need to really look at it and speak the language that businesses speak and care about. And so it's about business scalability. Unless you're building products for only one specific type of user, which no one really is, then it is about having everyone at the table and everyone in the room. And when Sasha Reed, if anyone really wants to see someone who's doing amazing stuff, she's from the building industry, but that woman is phenomenal. And the way that they have had to structure this in one of the most change-resistant, probably toxic environments that could be for ladies, and they've actually made it to where people give a shit. And that's amazing. So I think it's business scalability is how I've heard people usually refer to that.
That's super important. And
Adding value.
And Damon, staying on you, when people come to you and you identify also with people that are part of the XR Guild, they identify abusive way of manipulate data in an XR application, or bad UX that is collecting biometric data for to harm, to be super intrusive in the privacy of the users. How do you usually act in order to prevent this? Is more preventive and instructional, so you instruct the people that are part of the XR Guild on how to avoid this, or you also take action towards companies and actively talking to them and pushing them to change their behavior and their ideas?
Yeah, great question. I think the way that we look to approach it, Nick, is really about providing a place where the PMs and the people from those companies can come and figure out what is the best guidelines, right? I mean, these conversations have been around. I mean, these technologies are decades old, and these aren't new conversations. And so it's again, having a place where you can come as a PM at a Meta or any of these places and say, how can I have a conversation? And then it's about working with groups like XRSI and others, or depending upon, because everyone has their part to play. And so I think for the XR Guild, ours is more of saying that how can, like, I educate myself. This going back to, okay, real quick, how many of y'all in here think that you're unethical in your XR development? Okay, how many of you, okay, I appreciate the honesty, because how many of you put ethical development as a cornerstone of when you're developing? Okay, thank you for your honesty. Okay, 4. And so this is an example. Where do you go to figure this stuff out? And that's what it's about. It's about saying, here's this community of individuals that I can go and get best practices, because no one knows. These things evolve too quickly, right? Things, and with AI, even people that have been in this forever. I mean, if you want to see scary data, look at just from telemetry data what playing Beat Saber tells about you. If you've never read that report, read that report, right? And now as we get into eye tracking and others, now, and there's a company out of China called AirDoc, right? Where they found that with AI, and as the retinal scanners get better about being able to track your eyes, you can predict diseases months before any existing medical procedures or testing. Now, where do you want that data going? And so as these things evolve, how can the PMs and the other people who care about this at these companies find their tribe of folks? And we have a good conversation.
So can we talk about the next step then?
Yeah.
So do you see the XR Guild not just being a place where people can be educated or eventually mourn about the loss of their job and find comfort in, a group support of people, but also moving towards something that is going to enforce some actions in order to show to the public that these kind of practices are bad and potentially take even legal actions against those companies?
I don't want to represent the XR Guild on that specific thing, right? Because I personally don't perceive
Do you think that that's the future
organization.
of...
It shouldn't be shaming. It shouldn't be shaming, right? It should be tapping into the fact that, like Tom Furness and all these others, and all of us, I think, up here, it's about the human-to-human connection. When we stop caring about the technology, because I'll be honest, I don't give a shit about the technology. I care about how we improve humans. I care about the whole virtual world society logo, if you ever see it, is about the existing generation lifting up the next generation to see the future. And when we get back to well, that's Tom Furness and the people that did that logo. So I would say that it's about looking at just saying, hey, you're a human being. When your mom is in this, when your daughter is in this, when your son is in this, so even if you don't care about them collecting your data, just be a decent human. And if the companies continue to go that way, that's why I'm a big fan of Europe, okay? Who up here is a European not-for-profit? Enough said. But they lead the charge. When GDPR came out, California was the first one to say, hey, let's do this, right? And so I feel that in that collaboration, so is it up to us as the XR Guild to shame or be therapists for people that have lost their jobs? No. But it is there to be there for other people that say, we want to build a better future the right way, and how do we do that?
Please.
So I'm not representing the XR Guild on this either, but the Polys has its sort of season kickoff on Sunday the 14th. We have the third annual Mission Responsible, which we get together. So the Polys has an ethics award called the Ombudsperson of the Year. So Nani de la Peña is our 6th Ombudsperson, and so it's not enough to just have an honor for these people. We need to listen to what they have to say. So Avi Barzev, the founder of XR Guild, was the 2nd Ombudsperson, and I was on the prep call for Mission Responsible last Wednesday. And what Avi said was something you've heard Avi say many times, which is there is no Hippocratic oath for emerging tech. And that, in terms of like, what do we need to do? What is the next step? And Avi quite eloquently went through a whole list of examples of industries that have ethical codes. We do not have an ethical code. AI does not have an ethical code, XR does not have an ethical code, IoT does not have an ethical code, and blockchain certainly is far from having an ethical code. So this is what the next step, I think, logically would be, is to, and I would also say that the XR for Human project that Michael Barngrover was talking about this morning, and Michael will actually be on the Mission Responsible red carpet and is the ambassador to Mission Responsible this weekend, talking about exactly that. It's very much in line with the XR Guild principles, because the European Commission funded that project to be able to define the articles of ethics for our industry.
Could I make a comment?
Please.
I also think we don't know what we don't know. So, we have so many new, it's not a new technology, but yet in some ways it is. There's, a lot of new parties coming in. They don't know what they don't know. So if we don't have something that's kind of outlined and showing them, and, again, another plug for XR Women, but we I feel like when people come in there and they can kind of get a feel, as with your organizations as well, for what are the requirements, what are some of the things that we need to be looking at,
And, I think with the 3 organizations here, you're very at the top of the funnel here, and we can talk and talk all day about ethics, but it doesn't really do anything until you put it into practice. Translate everything. Yeah.
Amen.
You have to translate the missions into practical outcomes. So, that's something that we focus on at, Reality Hack at MIT, and we take the mens et manus slogan, I guess, really, which means the mind in the hand. We take that really literally. In fact, even in our organization, we don't bring on volunteers who like to talk or guide. You have to make something. I see Luke over there. He works really hard. Yarn also, Jonathan, you have to make some, and all of that energy, it translates all the way down to, the hackers or even speakers who come to our conference. And it is also about, getting all the right people in the room, as you've alluded to. And, so, like, for example, last year, I was introduced to somebody at the United Nations, at the UNICC. She focuses on AI and bringing those to some of their member states. And then, through creating that relationship over the year, like last night at like 2 a.m., we had another call, and we are going to collaborate on, doing a digital twin disaster or catastrophe mitigation track at the Hack this year. And so, the UN will be, contributing publicly available data from some of their member states, which relates to, I'm not going to say too much stuff. I forgot. But it's basically, it is going to give, the people in our community the chance to actually build something that directly addresses some of the most, pertinent issues on the planet, and that go directly to, the ministers and governments of some of these nation states. And so, yeah, they're looking to us, looking to all of us for ideas.
Fantastic. I have one last question for all of you, and then we're going to open for some small Q&A. I don't know how much time do we have, Louis. We can start back from Damon. So let's say that is 2080, and they're writing the history of XR and immersive technologies. 2080. 2080, and they're writing the history of immersive technologies. And they're writing about the XR Guild. What do you wish they're going to write about the XR Guild? What do you think and do you wish the XR Guild should achieve, or you wish that it's going to achieve in the next few years?
I guess I hope it becomes a snowball that is such a norm that it's no longer needed. That's what I really wish. What's
your definition of success?
When it's just the duh, right? And I'll be honest, man, what bothered me is I loved, who in here has been in virtual reality longer than 15 or 20 years? Terry, I know you can raise your hand. Okay, yeah, exactly. All the rest of y'all, go talk to those people that raised their hand and everybody else. Because back when it wasn't publishing, this is a controversial statement, but back before there were VR publishers, there were actual VR developers, which meant I could push someone Notepad and they could build the system from the ground up. And these people studied how the mind works, how humans worked. But then when the game developers were able to just say left eye, right eye camera and publish, and you had, with the most respect, very immature minds coming into how you actually control the mind, things got really warped. And that's where stuff got really skewed. And so I think it's going back to saying, we are successful when it's no longer predominantly males focused on shooting shit and people that are actually saying, how do we, now that we know that we're actually programming minds, how do we do that in the best way that's human-centric? So in 2080, I hope the XR Guild was a catalyst that set something forward, that became a community of people that eventually fizzled out because it was no longer needed, because it just became the duh for everybody when building something.
Wonderful. Christine,
Okay, I have, I guess, 3 things.
you can build on that, or you can change completely the
Yeah, I
narrative.
mean, I'm going to just elaborate a little more on a couple things he said. I would like us to be the catalyst. I mean, our keyword for 2026 is empowerment, and empowering women to move to the next level. I would like to see more equal representation of women in boardrooms, in creating these projects, and in everything. And then I would also, like you said, I would love to keep the human element in it. I feel like we have to be careful that we're getting too technical and removed from each other. So.
I want us to keep doing what we're doing. We are setting the tone. It's, when Luke and I engage a new company, a new sponsor, there's almost every time there's somebody who was like, oh, I was at Reality Hack 2000, yada, yada. We're everywhere. We saw when one of the first commercials for Vision Pro came out, and it had somebody was doing a cooking app, and there was somebody in our community who was like, oh, I created that feature with somebody who went on to work at Apple. It's everywhere. And so as long as we continue to stay true to the mission and keep that tone what it is, and build on it and collaborate more as we are doing now, we're seeding the industry and also seeding the pervasive mindset of what is good, what things should be, and what's going to make you feel good.
So first, to build on what Damon was saying about until we're not needed, that's the end game, is to not be needed. And I've actually heard Julie Smithson say as much. It's like, we're doing this because we shouldn't have to be doing this. And it's a poor paraphrase, but the spirit of that is women are underrepresented in tech, and that needs to change, period. So as far as the Academy of Immersive Arts and Sciences, what will we say about us is that what I talked about before is we want to level that playing field for creators to be able to publish to a worldwide audience without friction. And if we can achieve that, and the faster we can move that along, that would be a great service to humanity, and that's what I would like to see happen.
Wonderful. And one last thing, I have a call to action for all of you. I would like to ask to each one of you, seriously, 20 seconds, how people can engage with your organization, and if there are any cool things that are on the horizon that they should be aware about. Please, Ben.
So first of all, reach out to our members. We have, Terry, Karen, and I are the leadership of this, and we are making plans for the future. So we invite people to be part of that conversation on how we develop it. We actually have a vision that I have too much to say about to fit it into this, but essentially it is hinged around this concept that creators should have friction-free worldwide publishing. But if you look at the model that we've had, whether you're talking about book publishing, whether you're talking about film distribution, whether you're talking about the music industry, this has not gone well for creators ever. And there's a lot of talk about the creator economy, and that's a wonderful, fluffy thought. But if we're actually going to implement it, it needs to be a non-exploitative creator economy.
Of course.
And the music industry has always been exploitative. You're hearing nightmare scenarios about VFX professionals starving to death in Hollywood because they're overworked and they're underpaid, and that these are talented people that are building XR experiences. So one thing that I often cite is that the film industry is already building in 3D. and they're wasting the potential to monetize all these assets. They're building virtual worlds to shoot them once. And so there are server farms full of this that
How
are
can
not.
those creators engage with you and to solve this problem?
Well, I mean, contact us. We have a website.
We have QR codes with all the website, by the way, if you're interested.
But I'm on LinkedIn. Please reach out to me directly. Don't send through the contact form. Reach out to me. Reach out to Terry. Reach out to Karen. Reach out to anybody on our board. And reach out to our friends. And let's start the conversation.
Wonderful. Maria.
Yeah, so, we go to realityhack@mit.com. Our contact form does reach us, but,
Ours does too.
yeah. Well, but I know how it is. Sometimes it'll reach us eventually. But yes, we're pretty hands-on, but it is better to, hit me up on LinkedIn. But, our next event is on January 22nd through 26th. And we are still taking applications for hackers, for mentors, for judges, and please, dear God, sponsors. And be active, be part of this conversation, be part of the impact that channels through.
And I went this year, and I've just got to say, worth it. So good.
Yes, yes. Oh, yes, and thank you for coming. Also, he came to our Experiential Innovation Conference, and that's where, a lot of these conversations continue. It actually started when we were collaborating with the Virtual World Society, like a couple of years back. So, yeah, if you connect to some of the I'll say the decision makers in some of these large companies, as well as within, I mentioned the UN and the World Bank, and we'll be bringing in some people from DC.
And what's at the horizon? What's next? Any events?
The event is January 22nd through 26th. The conference
Cool.
is the 23rd to 24th. They're all happening at the same time. They're all at MIT, so yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. Christine,
And we have a party tomorrow night. Sorry, here.
so don't miss it.
Don't forget the party. So XR Women, to be quite honest, we've been doing this for 5 years, and there's a core team of about 8 people, and quite honestly, they've been facing a lot of burnout, So we just became a 501c3. We're looking for donations. That would help us a lot. We have a lot of programs. We recently started our first training program, and it's on. It's called Rise Above: Microaggressions in the Workplace. But it's really about being a leader, if not only just in your own mind, but with others that you're around. So, and we developed some AI spatial agents that have some microaggressive personalities that would be typical, like Gatekeeper Gary and Competitive Claire, and there's 5 of them. But just so we can continue doing our programs in a really good way, because we volunteer a lot of time to do what we're doing. We've put on 243 events. So if you need any help in doing immersive events, we are professionals at it in most every world you could think of. Right, Helen? And Allison. And there are a lot of XR women around. So, connect with me. The QR code is for our website. There's a lot of information there, but would love to talk with anyone that wants to hear more about it. XR Women, thank you.
Damon.
Yep. I would just say, and then for all these organizations, volunteer your time. Bring your passion. Help us out. Get better. Go to the websites of all of these and join and be a part of the conversation. And truly, in the true sense, right, be that change that we need.
Wonderful. So we would like to open for a very quick Q&A. Can we, Louis? Are you going to kill me? No? It's fine. I'm safe. Okay, cool. Are there any questions? Here we go.
This is actually to Ben. You actually anticipated the question I was going to ask, which is, forgive the crudity, I'm from New York. Why the fuck has Hollywood not been more active in the XR space? They have the models. They have the talent. God knows they've got the money. And the truth is, one of the most profitable exercises in XR is in the training market, which nobody wants to talk about because A, it's not sexy, and B, it tends to be kept very close to the vest. What can we do to get Hollywood to be more actively involved in this space? And this is open to everybody, but specifically to you.
Well, we're sort of facing a chicken and the egg scenario in terms of it needs to make money before they'll believe it will make money so that they'll invest in it, which is really a lack of vision and not even imagination. They don't have to
Yeah, I mean,
imagine.
they've got the models already.
And they're spending $100 million. You know how far $100 million would go towards, employing a legion of creators to make something beautiful? Every time you sit through a feature film, you see an army of people that have put their heart and soul into creating a single scene to be able to do that. And we create these worlds that we can repurpose. We can make them into social XR. There's a whole lot of art that can be done with this. So why? I mean, I'll take the current news of the Warner Brothers acquisition by Netflix, and there's a lot of people balking.
Actually, it's Paramount now. They just submitted a $102 billion hostile takeover tender this morning.
Which blows my mind because I couldn't believe that Paramount was only worth like $8 billion and suddenly Warner is worth $80 billion. But I want to pick on Warner because I think that they've squandered the goodwill of their fans through wrecking their fandoms. They've hired bad directors. They've had
Snyder.
well, I mean, I'm actually not as down on Snyder, but I would just say across the board that I love what Netflix has been doing for a while, and so I would like to see them just purge those executives that don't have vision. But Netflix, for example, has a guy named Paul Debevich who's a legend in this, and he gets immersive, and so they should be listening to guys like him to solve this.
Thank you.
Damon, Mike.
I think ultimately, man, it's because the people in the industry can't communicate value. That's been the problem of XR, and we've been in it long enough to know that. If you can't communicate value, why the hell do I want it? And so I would humbly say that the reason why they haven't embraced is because people are going in there, nerding out, instead of speaking their language, listening, and communicating value.
Amen.
That kind of brings me to my question. So I was giving Oh, I don't need it.
It's recorded. It's recorded.
Gotcha. So I was doing a demo on the plane over, and the person sitting next to me was like talking to me, and she was like, anytime you create something with AI, you're potentially stealing an opportunity for two people to talk to each other. And us being two moms, talking to each other about what it's like to be moms and thinking about like the whole sympathetic nervous system thing that's happening then. And it kind of brings me to my question for Maria, because your reality hacks covers so much territory. You're like industry agnostic kind of. And I was curious not just about communicating value, but building value. How do you approach, when you're like, I have an idea, I think it's really interesting. Obviously, I am the nerd who's interested in this. But how do I gut check this to, test if this is actually going to bring value to the world, to human beings, and not, kind of subversively steal some sort of existing human connection?
Yeah. I'm really glad you brought that up. And communicating value is, to me personally and to all of us, it's the hard thing, especially when you come from like a design or engineering background, which is what a lot of our organization is. It's exactly why we started the Reality Hack for Startups initiative. Although this year it's not going to just be for people who want to make companies, but it really was to address this issue with how people are presenting their projects and how people are vetting sort of the return on value. And I don't mean that in a necessarily capitalistic way, but there is, how are you, how do you go from fluff or wouldn't this be cool if, to something that would actually, garner widespread adoption and scaling. And we're continuing to navigate that.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I think that we are at the end of our panel. There's another question, Luis? Can we quickly?
Absolutely.
Come on.
It's the end of the day.
Right. Can you hear me?
Of course.
Right. Okay. So this is about publishing. I mean, this is about publishing. It reminds me of the mobile platform where Apple has still got a very strong grip on the app market. Now, as a developer and also as an entrepreneur, I've had this problem that we got to publish for every single XR platform.
Yeah.
Because every single device manufacturer wants the device to sell more. So people like us would become just an enabler so they can sell more. Now, I would love that we only code once and publish everywhere. But what's going to be in it for people like Meta, for Snap, or Apple, or anybody else to make that happen?
I can answer that.
You want to go? And I have my take as well. Please go.
And then
Yeah.
you should finish this up. The first thing is you at the same time go talk to Neil Trevitt about OpenXR, and then also look at WebXR, because the browser's on all the devices. And I'll be happy to have a conversation with you about this more later.
Yeah, so I think that is more about the human factor than the hardware factor, from my point of view. My first love was gaming, video games. I'm a gamer. I studied journalism because I wanted to be a video game journalist. I started doing it in my university years, and then I worked in the industry. And then, of course, other companies got in the way, and Yahoo and everything else, Virgin Radio, Spotify, and so on. And I moved away from the industry. So when I saw XR, for me was my passions colliding. The strategy about doing products that transform industries, the passion about 3D content and immersive content. I had my first headset when I was 19, a VFX1 from Forte Technologies, right? And then mobile, that I was doing quite extensively at the time when the Oculus Kickstarter happened. I was working at IBM. I was leading media entertainment for mobile at IBM at that time in Europe. Multi-platform has always been a thing in gaming. Has always been a thing. It's not a thing when it comes to media, but it's always been a thing in gaming. This didn't stop the gaming industry to become the most valuable industry right now, the fastest growing industry in the world. Probably the only thing that is outpacing the growth and the money of gaming is the AI industry right now, and oil, very likely. The problem from my point of view is the interoperability of the development, the assets that are powering the development tools. You need to be able to reuse the asset. You need to be able to move quickly from one platform to the other. And what's happening, of course, with standards, the Metaverse Standard Forum and all the other companies that are trying to create standards is this, 3D standards and interconnectivity standards and so on. But what really is kicking in the industry right now for gaming is the interoperability of multiplayer experiences. So the gamers on PlayStation can talk to the players on Xbox, with the players of PC and so on, create that critical mass of people that are part of these persistent worlds like Fortnite, like Battlefield, Call of Duty, and you name it, that are really propelling that industry to the stratosphere. Roblox, accessible from everywhere, all the devices have a different build, but people can talk to each other. I believe that we are whining a lot about we have to build a lot of versions of the same application, while we're not thinking that maybe the key is to enable a better human interaction in the existing platforms that there are right now. Because player will always try to outpace the other ones from an hardware perspective. It's always going to be like that. Somebody is always going to come up with one up another hardware company with a better visor or a better user experience and so on. But it's the human factor that I believe creates the critical mass for industry. Maybe I'm mistaken, but that's my point of view.
Well said. A good one to end on, probably.
Well,
Please.
yes to that, but I want to give a specific example. So we're very used to a personal computing ecosystem where it's PC and Mac, and so
Yeah.
software developers need to publish to PC and Mac, and we're used to that. And you'll notice that most applications work more or less the same within the sort of confines of the operating system's windows, if you will. And the same thing goes for iOS and Android. So, that's the ecosystem. And where we're headed right now is I think that Vision OS is probably, Apple's going to be Apple. And we're going to have Vision OS, which has its own graphics APIs, and it supports web interoperability standards, but it is doing its own thing. But most of the other platforms, and specifically Android XR, which is built on OpenXR, and all of these standards, when you open a JPEG on any platform, it's the same thing. You can open a JPEG in a headset, and all of these things are already interoperable. But as you point out, you can't just publish so easily to this in XR, and I believe that that's what's holding the industry back, and that's what we need to solve as soon as possible. So we haven't heard much from Nick. Give it up for Nick first.
And I wanted to thank all my fellow panelists. Ben, ERWIN, Maria Rice, Christine HOBBI, and we got Damon HERNANDEZ as well. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for being with us.